Good afternoon, Jan.
Michael, good afternoon. Exactly at the same time there.
Yes, indeed. Yep, frantically getting all the stuff ready to go. And
Was that
it's like,
was Saturday?
boom. Yeah, definitely getting ready for Saturday.
Okay.
But I mean, even for this morning stream, it's like, okay,
Hmm.
I was doing some stuff on my laptop. Got to get that pulled over to this machine. Um, this time I actually tested it to see that it worked. I don't always
Okay.
do that. It's like, it worked on the laptop. It'll work on the desktop. It'll be fine. What could go wrong?
Hmm. Well, we will see if
Yes.
Murphy is around or not.
Yes, indeed. Murphy is my friend.
Mm.
He makes things interesting.
He's always there.
Yep.
Mm.
But for Saturday, I was
We,
thinking about what our
mm,
goal should be, what we want to accomplish in the 4 hours we've given ourselves. Um,
mm,
so I think modeling, that's we should be able to completely model the system. We've already got the diagram, so that's the plan. So we should be able to get
mm.
that translated into C# records and put that into a notebook and test it out a little bit. That uh,
Okay.
that seems reasonable.
So so we start from the simplified plan.
Yes, yeah, I
The,
think that
the,
makes
the one that
sense.
the one that um, comes from the current version of DWS.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yep, yeah. That helps in a couple of ways. Yeah, it's a simpler model,
Mm,
so um, we aren't trying anything new. It's what's already there, and then
mm,
it also gives us a really good path for migration. So you're going to want to. Um, well, actually, I think we already talked about this. You will be fine with. Wait a minute. That might have been somebody else's discussion. Um, yeah. So data migration. Yeah. Is uh, Do you want to run the two systems in parallel for a while and have people use two separate apps, or do you want to get all of uh, that
I,
data
I
flowing
think
from the old to the new?
I think the moment that customers start with a new one, they will go all all at once for that customer. All these people will go to the new application at once.
Okay.
But the next step, every time there is an update of the new application, that has to be done gradually
Hmm.
because that's the big problem today. Have to do it on a Saturday, on a Sunday. Uh, so they have
Yeah.
to make sure that they all synchronize on Friday evening or Saturday evening, and on Monday they all have to download the new version before they start.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that will be really a major improvement if we can just whenever we want release a new update,
Hmm.
and that they can when they want they just install it and
Yeah. Yeah. I think the application agnostic nature of the replicator. So
mm,
you're not updating the replicator when you update the application.
mm,
That's gonna help, and also most of the updates are going to be additions to the graph. So
yeah.
so that means that, yeah, an app that only knows the old subset of the graph can still use that subset of the graph. It just can't see the new features, the new facts that you've created. So
Mm,
um, so they've got incentive to update, but they're not broken.
mm,
So yeah, I think that's going to help that problem
mm.
quite a bit.
Because if we want to make a transition from the old one to the new one, it's going to cost more time and more testing to make that work than the time I will
Hmm.
gain. So anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there is a one-time difficult transition. So customers will see that there is some improvement,
Okay.
something new.
Yeah. And then during that transition, would you still want them to be able to see yesterday's data on today's app,
Um,
or do you want it just to be a blank slate, and the dispatchers have to re-enter information.
That's it's always good to have historical data.
Mm-hmm.
But because most of them they make a planning for the day after,
Mm-hmm.
and of course they schedule some things a few days in advance, but it's not that much. So the dispatcher could still run the old application on one screen, see the old data,
Mm-hmm.
and run the new application on another screen. And the few things that he has to retype, well, so be it.
Okay.
Because otherwise I will have to read the old data, convert all that into facts,
Mm-hmm.
which is not going to be
Yeah.
easy, probably.
Yeah. It's not trivial, but it's also, it's also not a terrible amount of work either. So so yeah. In fact, one of the projects that I led at improving was completely refreshing an application that was originally written by students of a university, and they were starting to depend upon it for
Mm.
some real work, and it's yeah it was and this wasn't even a computer science college. It just this was a medical college, but
Mm.
some of the students knew some PHP and MySQL, and they just made this thing. Um, and uh, and so with this project, keeping that historical data was of utmost importance. These are cases that live for years. Um, and so the way that I organized that project was, as we built a new feature, we also built the migration. So when we delivered a feature at the end of each sprint, we showed, okay, we're running this migration, and all the data is coming in, and built it in such a way that you could run the migrations multiple times,
Mm.
and it wouldn't overwrite or duplicate data. If you made changes here, then um, it would merge the changes with the what it was importing. So it was following all the because what I built was a historical system. I built an
Mm.
immutable architecture for the new system, um, and so kind of got those benefits, as long as the import was deterministic. So
But but there you got a one-time import from the old system, and then of course every time you made a new version of the new system, it was from the new system to the new system.
it was actually capable of running that import uh, multiple times. So yes, we had version 12 stood up, and then we deploy a new feature. Okay, here's version 13,
Mm.
and then we run the import, and all the data that it already had doesn't get duplicated. All the data that it didn't have, because that was data related to this new feature, that got merged in. And furthermore, they were still using the old system, so as we tested that import, we were getting all the changes that they made during those past 2 weeks.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it was the best of both of those
Yeah.
options. Now it still was a manually push the button and run the process. It could be automated to the point of periodically running that import, or even using triggers or change data capture or something like that, in order
Mm.
to in near real time get that data moved in. So yeah, you have that range of options. It depends on how much effort you want to put um, into that translation.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think no. The the old data for the moment, it is something we can always add later.
Mm-hmm. That
Um,
is true. Yes.
um, let's start with
Yeah.
with the application first.
Yeah. Yeah, in this case, I added it as I went because I wanted to prove to my stakeholders that
Mm,
yes, we've got this figured out. I didn't want that, that that nervous day when okay, we're about to switch over to the new system. Everybody, import your data and don't touch the old system anymore. And oh, something failed halfway in between, so we have to roll back the database and try again. These,
mm.
all these things that happen with migrations. I want to say nope, nope, we've got that figured out. And I want to prove it to you every sprint. So they got kind of tired of seeing the proof of the okay, we get it. This is going to be fine. So yeah, when they rolled it out, it was like, hey, no big deal. Just point people to the new website. The old website is still up.
Mm.
If people use the old website, hey, we're going to run this again. But yeah, in that
Yeah.
case, people switched to the new website so quickly. Yeah, we didn't have to run it again, but we could have. So yeah, it is something that you can add. You can add later. Um, and yeah, it would be a scanner process. Go through
Mm.
every row of the database and start at the top level. Start with your uh, what did you have at the tenant level? Was it company something like that at the very top level?
Um, let me take. Let me
Or
take the figure.
yeah, there was also clients.
Wait, or was this the simplified one? Oh, this is 22. This is 23. The simple one. Um, Let me share that one.
Yeah, this will also help with the planning what we want to accomplish.
So we had supplier and we had user.
Supplier, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, if you did write a scanner, it would say select star from supplier. Boom. And then for each one, create a fact, and then in another database, um, it would keep a map between the supplier ID um, and enough information to get back to that supplier in the
And the hash of the
yeah
supplier in
yeah
the historical model.
yeah yeah
Mm.
yeah hash is a bit of a is a bit difficult because you can't get back to a fact from a hash, which is something that I do want to support at some point, but it's not there yet. But yeah, it would have to be um, the fields that it would take to just recreate that fact, um, which are probably, if you're deterministic, already in the supplier record, so you might not even need to keep that mapping table.
Mm.
Um, but then, yeah, you scan the next level down, and and then create that next level of facts. And so,
But Michael, we do store the hash with the fact, no?
yes, yes, it is stored with the fact, and it's that's the alternate key. That's how it's
Yeah.
coming
So
up with that information.
why can we not get back to that fact?
Yeah, the problem is just the C sharp API. So in order to get a fact, you create a new record, and then you call Jinaga client.fact. There's no API that says, given this hash and this C sharp type, give me back a record.
Hmm.
Um, or the way that I think I want to support it, because that would require loading all of the predecessors. It would load
Yeah.
the transitive closure.
But
But I do want to have some kind of a fact reference generic type, so that you can declare your predecessors to be actual facts, or you can declare them to be fact references. Um, and this would help in a number of patterns where you don't actually need to know anything about the predecessor. You just need to know that it is a predecessor. Um,
mm,
so, like the mutable property pattern, you don't actually need to know the values of your previous uh,
mm,
properties. You just need to know that they were, that this one has replaced them. Um, so yeah, declaring those as arrays of fact references that would um, that would decrease the overhead of having to load all that stuff. But yeah, then with that capability, you would be able to get a fact reference and then start a query from that starting point, and then get back the facts that you're really interested in. Um,
Mm.
and then I think we can also make it assist us in this situation where now you are storing those facts and the IDs of the old database in a lookup table, and then now pulling a fact reference and using that as a predecessor in
Mm.
order to create the new facts.
But since the import is always gonna happen on a dedicated machine,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, you could say to the clients you can do an import, but if you limit it to a dedicated machine, a kind of gateway, then you could just make a lookup table which has the ID of the record in the old database and the ID of the record in the new database.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
and then on database level, you have the correspondence between the fact and the original record.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly the pattern that I'd like to go to. The challenge is just in C# how you create a fact. Right now, since it's fact and new record, you have to be able to instantiate that record. The hash alone
Mm.
is not sufficient to create a predecessor right now.
Okay.
But yeah, once you get into the database, that is all that's happening. So so it should be possible to make that work.
And so you run over all the suppliers. Next, you run over the type of leaves
Mm-hmm.
for a supplier, and you just build up the whole graph then.
Yep, that is correct. Um, and yeah, as long as it's deterministic, or you rely upon that lookup table to see, have I already
Mm.
done this? Um, then yeah, you can run it again, and you're not going to duplicate anything,
Yeah.
and it will merge things. Yeah, the mutable properties are the interesting place where yeah, if you update a column in the old table or the old database, and then you need to create mutable properties in the new database, then you need to look at the current state and say, okay, what's the most recent, the current version of this property? Does the value equal that one? If not, let me create a new fact. And so in that one case, uh, well, there's probably other cases, but in that case, the order and the timing at which you do these imports matter. So you might change things multiple times and then do an import, and it just gets one version.
Yeah. Yeah, but because in the traditional database, the history is not stored,
Yeah.
and so you don't have a one-to-one relation there.
Yep. Yeah. In the project that I was just talking about, keeping history was actually a part of the old system. So, in addition to the current state tables, they had audit tables,
Mm.
and so we actually ran the imports strictly off of the audit tables. We didn't look at the current state,
Mm.
and that allows us to replicate that history. So they, um, at one point we added the feature that the admin could go back and see the history of a case. And so as soon as we added that feature, they went back to a case and was like, oh, that's the actual history of that case, not just since we started. That is so cool. Like, okay, you're excited again.
And in that application, so there you had a user interface to go back into time.
Yes, yeah, yeah. We kind of modeled it after the Git log, so you could see as things branch. So part of the problem here was that um, we had a core set of administrators, and then we had law enforcement that was entering information about the cases, um, and then this information was actually made available to the general public so that they could help to do some research. It's a really cool project, um, and so when law enforcement would enter information, the administrators would have to vet that information to make sure that it's it it adheres to policy and that it could go out to the public. Otherwise, they'd have to work with that officer and say, okay, go ahead and redact this or um, change that. Um, and so they had that history of these are the different changes proposed by different officers, and you could see a diff graph. The red over here for what was deleted, the green over here for what was added, um,
Okay.
and then they could say okay, approve, and then that gets published, and that was now part of the main. It's like merging into main, um, and uh, and then if they rejected it, then it would just that part of history would no longer be used. It wouldn't go away, but it would nobody would be able to see it, and the officer who entered the information would still be able to see their information. So they would see they would see main, and they would see their branch. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, then we kind of had that interface to show them this is how history worked, and
Hmm.
you can approve and reject things. So yeah, um, they didn't quite realize as they were getting started that what they really needed was what programmers used all the time, and it's a bit more complex than you think that it should be. So there was a bit of education, a bit of training on how this stuff works, and we tried to simplify it. It wasn't quite as powerful or as complex as Git. So there was no merge capability. It was like I'm going to approve this part. So each part of the case was a separate mutable property. So you could merge this one, you can merge that one, and they were they didn't need to interact with each other. But if two people changed the same part of the case, you could only accept one and not the other. There was no way to merge those two things. So yeah, the administrator would have to ask them to manually merge and say, "Oh, accepting somebody else's changes, go ahead and make yours again," that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, we decided that was favorable to automating the merge and then teaching them how automatic merges work.
We'll give them a full course on Git.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to make that Git-like, and people will ask a lot of questions, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there was no concept of cloning your repo and having a local version of the database. That would have been really cool.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it was still all against one central repo, but that repo had branches,
Mm-hmm.
and those branches were just the natural side effect of the mutable property pattern.
Good.
Yeah.
So then we start from that diagram.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think the top level yeah, is all about the distributor doing their job, and then the leaf facts are the workers coming in and recording their work. So so ultimately you're going to end up with two applications as you do right now, one for the dispatchers and one for the workers.
yeah.
So how do you distribute that dispatcher app, and what does it look like right now?
The dispatcher app is an application on Android. So that is where indeed they say unit of work started. When did they start? When did they end? And the
Mm-hmm.
GPS coordinates. And the dispatcher application, where it describes the tasks,
Mm-hmm.
that is a Windows application.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So I will prepare. Yeah, I can just run the Android application on Android and make it visible on my computer screen with the TeamViewer, so that I can share both through Discord.
Okay, and for this, if it makes sense to use Zoom instead of Discord, since we're not going to invite others to join in on the
That,
hackathon.
yeah, because Zoom, I think you can share multiple screens at the same time, I think.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll try that on the morning. I'll go ahead and set up the
Yeah,
a Zoom link, and then we can give
okay.
that a shot first. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I was kind of curious about what you want the next version to look like. Do you still want? So it sounds like you've got 3 apps: one for setting up tasks, one for dispatching, and then one for the worker.
No, no. So the setting up the tasks and the dispatching is one application. So that's a Windows
Oh,
application.
okay, that's a Windows app. Okay, got it.
Yeah. All right. Let me see if I have, or is it a customer's version here? Starting up here. Is that my? No, no. That one I cannot
Okay.
not show. That's a
Quite all right.
customer's version.
Yep.
Yeah, I will install a demo version,
Okay.
and then I can show it.
Okay. And then
Um,
for the new version, do you want to target Windows, or do you want to target web, or
the new
or what?
version, the dispatcher app, has to work on Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the fact that it will have a local database, because for the moment the old version goes directly to a central server.
Mm-hmm.
But so with a local database, that would be really good. Um,
Yeah.
it is even, I had some customers who asked whether we can run the dispatcher interface on a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes possible then.
Yeah.
Um, and then the application for the workers is for the moment on an Android telephone, but so that should also work on iOS in the future.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a couple of options for the dispatcher app. We could build it in Maui, and that would give us a native
mhm,
Windows application. Um, it also allow us to build a native iOS application should you have any dispatchers who want to
mhm.
use a Mac. Um, and we also have the option of using Blazor, so we can deploy that to the web.
Um, I would say if we keep it simple, but it's not simple at all.
No, it's not simple.
If we keep everything in Maui now,
Mhm.
uh, so that Maui becomes my next VB6.
Okay, yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because if we're gonna, then I will never ever reach it. But no, the applications from what I saw, the Windows application in Maui, um, it looks a bit different.
Yeah, yeah, they don't really look like
Um,
native Windows applications.
but it's still workable,
Hmm.
and I assume that with time, it will get better and better. Um,
Yeah, and
or do you disagree?
I think I think that's true. It's not going to be just a natural. It'll get better, but first of all we'll have um, to architect the client in order to separate the screens from the rendering. So whenever you whenever you have an application component that uses a view model and does data binding and that kind of thing, then you're always using um, components that are in a component library that
Mm,
you author. So never use just the built-in components. Um, your components then use the built-in components, but that way you've got this one place where you can change the styles, you can change the interaction, I like to
but
do things.
Maui, Maui is using the native components of Windows, no?
True. Yes, and it's yeah, it's the reason that that I say you want to then further wrap those is that yeah, the way that it looks right now, I think if you don't make any changes to your code and they release new versions, it will continue to look that way. Um, maybe you'll get subtle changes like the behavior of a text box is going to evolve as you go from one operating system to the next. Um, but um, but you're going to want things like the Fluent interface in Windows. So some Windows 11 applications have this this modern looking Fluent interface, but not all, and it's not something that's out of the box. You have to do some extra stuff to get it. Um, so so yeah, if you have your own custom components, then you can do um, the checking: am I on Android? Am I on iOS? Am I on Windows? And say, okay, I'm on Windows. I'm going to want to use the Fluent interface, and you do that checking there, and then all of your application components get that because they are all using that wrapper. Um, and so yeah, as things evolve, you can take advantage of them across your entire application if you've got everything wrapped. And it also lets you do kind of semantic things like rather than label and text box being two separate things, you can have one component that's labeled text box, and then
Yeah.
that component has those two things. And you might say in this application I put them side to side, in another application I put them one on top of the other, or maybe that's depending upon if I'm on iOS or Android, they're on top of each other because they've got a vertical interface. But if I'm on Windows or Mac, then I put them side by side. So all of those decisions can be made over there in those components, and that keeps your application nice and um, you know just talking about view models and binding to data. Um, so yeah, I think if architected that way, then then you can gradually improve the look of the Windows application, while also supporting the Android application, make that look like Android. The iOS application, make it look like iOS.
Because when we stay in one platform, most of the code is common. So
Yeah. That I think is the nice thing about Maui is that the original Xamarin concept was a shared central code base and then separate uh, separate applications that all use that same shared assembly. Um, and then with Xamarin Forms, they said, okay, we're going to give you one common Forms interface, but then have this way that you could break out into different different runtimes. And so you were thinking about, am I creating a component that's supposed to be common, or am I you know, am I in just the iOS portion of it? Am I in the rendering part, or am I in the the binding part? Um, and and I think with Maui, they've learned a lot from looking at other UI libraries, and they figured out a really good mix there. So so if you do nothing but build those common components, but you just use the core the core components inside of your common components, then you get good default behavior on all the platforms, but you still have you still have the capability right there within that component um, to customize it per platform, and yeah, you don't have to go to a special rendering class in order to do that. I forget what they called that class, but it was a completely separate thing that was brought in as part of the component that said, okay, this use this one for iOS, use that one for Android.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's the multi-platform story is a bit better now with Maui.
What would be the advantage of using Blazor?
The advantage would be that with it being on the web, then people could just go to it from whatever device. So you're talking about people are asking, can I run the dispatcher on Android? If you write the dispatcher in Maui, then you build it for Android, you put it into the Android marketplace, and then they would install it from there, and then they would go through the provisioning on their tablet. Versus if it was on the web, then you wouldn't need to put it in the marketplace. They would use the same URL on their tablet as they did on their desktop machine, and log in the same way and provision it once.
Yeah, but then it stays a web application.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the
That is
the
true.
nice thing the nice thing about historical modeling is that we can have a local database which is completely offline with all
Yeah.
the history in it.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, you definitely get better support for that with the Maui application.
Mm.
Yeah. Now I don't want to introduce React into your world. Let's stay on the .NET side, but as an existence proof, the React library does support PWAs, so you can
Mm.
use IndexedDB within your browser. So I haven't built that for Blazor. In fact, it was just last night that I tried a Blazor app for the first time. Um, but uh, um, but that is a direction that it will eventually go. But for right now, it does make sense. Yeah, since getting something out the door is important. Since using the same the same sets of patterns is important. Keeping things easy to maintain. It makes sense. Both the distributor app and the worker app are Maui applications, and then you get that local storage for distributor apps.
And you never
It's
know
just
that
SQLite.
the next question of a customer will be, but I have Macs uh,
Yeah.
in our office, and then immediately we can compile it for Mac,
Yeah.
and it will work,
Yep.
or it should work. Um,
Yep. So that is something that you'll need to introduce into your lifestyle is testing on a Mac, testing on iOS.
um,
So yeah,
well,
have to figure those out.
Macs, normally my customers don't have Macs.
Hmm.
Um, but initially I also thought they wouldn't have Apple phones. Because in an environment with a lot outside, when it rains, when it's muddy, when it's cold or bad weather,
Yeah.
uh, an iPhone is just too good for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You don't
I
want
was
a
wrong.
$1,400 phone
Yeah,
out in those conditions.
I was wrong. Apparently, these people they all have iPhones. A lot of them do have, and they even use them outside. Um,
All
well,
right then.
some of them they have these special cases
Hmm.
to protect them, but I wouldn't use my an iPhone in these circumstances. But
Hmm.
okay. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we will target Maui for both of those applications.
mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier this week, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should go ahead and try Blazor just to see if that's gonna work. And
Let,
got
let's
something
stick to
working. It's kind of surprising.
let's stick to Maui for this one,
Yep.
and in the next hackathon we can do the same for Blazor.
Awesome. Okay, that's the deal.
Mm, why not?
Okay.
Great.
Yep, that sounds like a good plan. So yeah, so we'll do
So
the modeling um, of the full system. It's not too many facts, so it shouldn't take us too long to do that modeling. And then um, I think our primary goal is going to be the dispatcher app. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have enough time during this 4 hours to also get to the worker app.
Mm. We'll
But
see how
yeah,
far we get.
maybe. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. We could also try the strategy of once we get a certain way down the dispatcher app, then we can split up and one of us will also create the project for the worker app, and then start making those work together.
Mm. Because the dispatcher app there is actually, so as it is today, it has different tabs. It's
Mm.
and you can make it in multiple windows and separate the windows on separate screens.
Ah, interesting.
Um, and that's something that is I don't know whether that's possible with a Maui app.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
first of all, you have a splitter, so you can put two windows which are as a tab control.
Mm-hmm.
Each tab you can put them next to each other, but you can also make them complete different windows.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because one of the tabs is a map where you see the position of all the workers
Mm-hmm.
in real time. Now, already this map alone to implement that is quite a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I used at the time a component for it. Was it Radio Map or something? I don't remember what it's called, but it's an open source component which is really working well. But then you have another tab where you can enter all the tasks. Then you have a third tab where you see all the work that is in progress. So all the work that has been entered by the workers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a fourth tab, and the fourth tab is for the reporting, where you can print, for example, an overview of what a particular worker has been doing during the past month, or all the work that has been done at at a certain customer's place. But also the reporting to get it right is also quite a lot of work. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
be- because not sure in Maui is there a report generator that is powerful. Then because
There might be one for sale somewhere. Yeah.
mm, because we start from an historical database, so it's not going to be just SQL
Right. Yeah.
uh, to interrogate. So perhaps we should copy the data in a normal database once we go to that reporting um, to apply
Yes.
standard SQL.
Yes. I think that would be the right choice for that. Um, so yeah, we might be able to get that standard database also in SQLite. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that would we would have to look for what reporting components can we find, and what databases do they support.
Mm.
Or it might actually be that we need to also install um, a different local database. So
Mm.
yeah, either way, it's going to be basically something that runs on the dispatcher application that subscribes to facts um, and then connects to another database. Uh, might be SQLite, might be something else,
Mm.
and does insert, update, delete type statements.
Yeah, it would be interesting to keep all the applications on SQLite.
Yeah,
Uh, Again, a matter of standardizing
yeah, makes it
because
easier to install. Yeah.
yeah, we can use what is it the light version of SQL Express. SQL Express.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that was one
yeah,
of the other options that I was thinking of,
yeah.
um, which is which is also also does not have to run as a standalone service, so
service.
it's not a
Yeah.
separate install. Um, yeah, so yeah, I think either one of those two would work. Postgres would be a separate install. Full SQL Server would be a separate install plus extra licensing costs. So um, yeah, we probably don't want to go either of those directions, um,
Mm.
but yeah, if we can find a report generator that works on Windows using SQLite.
Mm.
Uh,
Because if
yeah.
we standardize on SQLite, SQLite is very capable.
Mm-hmm.
It has a few special tricks of its own,
Mm-hmm.
but by standardizing on that, we might be able, or at least I might be able to
Mm-hmm.
to keep that in my mind. You can keep 10 databases without a problem, but for me it's a problem.
Yeah.
Um, because switching from one to the other,
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, there will be already be Postgres on the replicator.
True.
Um,
Yes.
but okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't need to think too much about that. Um,
Postgres plus SQLite.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, we've got the reports. Okay. So yeah, I did just take a look real quick on multiple window support, and there is something in Maui called the overlapped presenter, I think is what I'm seeing. Um, so either that or it's a component that this person themselves have created, but that doesn't make yeah. So so yeah, I think there is support for that having one Windows application, or I guess this would,
Mhm.
since it's multi-platform, also work on iOS. That brings up separate windows so you can put them on different screens. Um, so I think that's built in. If that turns out to be an issue, some of the other options that we have um, are being able to run one app multiple times, and then you can use the navigation in order to put it into a certain mode and then
Mhm.
put it on one screen. Um, it seems like they would have to set that up every time they started their their system, which would be annoying. Um, or actually building separate apps, and then since they all point to the same replicator, they all synchronize through that replicator. But as separate apps, they would also have separate local databases. Uh,
They
so
have
that's
to.
not ideal either.
No,
Yeah.
because the advantage which I have now is that I can save the layout,
Yeah.
so I can restore the layout. I have a few standard layouts. Um, that's something it took
Okay. Yeah.
me at the time a lot of work to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
It was also a component that I found somewhere on the internet, open source. Um, I have been fighting to make it work the way I want it, but in the meanwhile, it's going really well, and it's something that my customers really liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Okay.
usually,
That'll be a priority.
all this user interface fine tuning takes a lot of time
Yeah.
um, to make that work. Um, Now, perhaps using MVVM, it will keep a little bit the mess cleaned up.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, because one of the challenges with this kind of programming is that you do
mm,
something on one window and then it needs to update another window. Um, when the different windows that you described, maybe didn't I didn't see too many of those things happening. Uh, but uh, but yeah, with
well, through data binding, yes, because for example, how was it? You could link the map with the timing of the. Could go back in history. I was it that what I did? Go back in history for what the workers did,
mhm.
and show that on the map. Where were they at that time? So you have two different windows which are synchronized. But that's the data, so that goes through data binding in this case.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so the way that Jinaga would support that is that the Jinaga client is a singleton, and yeah, uh, it sets up all the subscriptions. So when you create a fact from one view model, it's going into that same singleton and then updating a subscription in another view model, um, or observer, I should say. Subscription is more heavy. That's all the way to the replicator, but yeah, so that that architecture should clean things up quite a bit for this multi-window support.
I'm really interesting to see how these modern architectures, what's going to be the difference between the old system and the new, because the old code is really a big spaghetti.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you'll find that you'll be able to focus. You'll be able to say, okay, I'm just looking at this one thing. I don't care about anything else. And then when you start using it, it integrates. It works with the other things the way that you would expect. So that's what the architecture really is shooting for. And then, yeah, by having this standard component library, now that narrows your focus even more, and you should be able to, while you're working on a screen, not even think about layout or style. It's like those are taken care of inside of that component library. But then when you're looking at the application as a whole and you're saying, oh, this doesn't look right, now you go to the component library and you change style and layout, and then the whole thing reacts.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be very helpful for you.
Okay, and then I have to look for a mapping component also.
Yeah. Yeah, mapping, reporting.
Reporting the splitter and the windowing.
Yeah. Yeah. Preserving the window layout. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if that would exist in Maui, that would be great. I've always given priority to built-in components, even if they are a little bit less powerful or less nice than the additional ones. But if you use the built-in components, there is a migration path usually. While if you today there is somebody who sells very nice components, you buy them, and 5 years later they have been taken over by another component maker, and they don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a challenge.
So for long-term support, I've always tried to keep it standard if it was possible, and if not, I looked for something open source. But it has not always been easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the open source ecosystem around Maui is still pretty young. There's not a huge amount of effort there because it's been changing quite a lot. So I do know that Telerik has put a lot of effort into to their Maui components, and Telerik has been around for a long time. So yeah, if you do want to go with a vendor, I think that's probably the best bet. But yeah, I agree. As much as possible with the native components is gonna give you the best behavior. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, do a little bit of research. Then we will get online this same time, but on Saturday. And so yeah, I'll send you a Zoom link, and we'll try it that way first. And if that doesn't work out, then we can fall back to Discord. But
normally Zoom would work fine. I used it a lot before, a little bit less now. But it will be okay.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm still paying for that subscription, so I may as well use it. So you don't have to restart every 40 minutes.
I had one before, but then there was Steam, so I didn't use Zoom anymore. But I find Teams not really.
Yeah,
I have more trouble with Teams than with Zoom.
yeah, yeah. I've
Um,
I've I've found that as well. But yeah, that's what
so
we use at work because we can control the permissions a lot better in Teams, and then it's integrated with all of our SharePoint stuff
mm,
and all that. So there's a good reason to use it at work, but yeah, for this kind of thing, I think Zoom has and
mm,
they've been focusing specifically on this interaction for many years, and I think they've they've got it right.
mm. All right. Was there anything else we needed to
Nope,
foresee?
nope.
Mm.
Think that think that gets us ready.
Okay. Then we see each other this Saturday at yeah, my time, 1500 hours.
Yep.
So because the morning I will be not be in, but the afternoon I'm in. So no problem.
Good. Good. Yeah.
Okay, Michael. Then we see each other Saturday.
Very good. I will see you then.
Okay. See you. Thank
Bye.
you.